Hey guys, so today I wanted to both clarify and muddy the waters about what an awakening or an enlightenment experience really is. So a lot of us describe an insight we had as an awakening or an enlightenment experience, but these awakenings can range from being very minor to almost not even noticing that a shift happened to being a major upset in our life. And if we haven't been educated about the spiritual transformation process or have been attempting to learn about these things, then we may even believe that our awakening, a very big upsetting awakening, is an episode of psychosis. And this is a major issue that we don't understand spirituality. We don't give it any time of day, really. We just believe that people have their misfounded religions when they make them happy and they give them something to feel hopeful about and some rituals and traditions to do when big life events happen. But religion and spirituality and all those things have a very important place in our life. And there are things that cannot be explained with science and cannot be explained with the logical mind. And that is the realm and the tool we have tried to use to explain the entire universe. And that isn't going so well. And we're starting to look for other alternatives. So an awakening or an enlightenment experience is exactly that. It's an experience. And you have to experience these things for yourself. Somebody can tell you something and you can have an insight with that. And it wasn't that they taught you anything. It was that you had an experience of the truth just then. You were ready for that insight. The insight may come from yourself. It may seem to come from a tree or something in nature. It may seem to come from another person. Or something may seem to trigger it, but really it's an experience of the truth. It's an experience of expansiveness of what you truly are. And to use this example, if your grandmother was racist, there's probably nothing you could say to her to make her open her mind to other races. But if she happened to have if she didn't like black people and she happened to have a mailman who was black who she really loved, then that experience would open her mind and she would need to have a positive experience of that. And so this is exactly what awakening is. Like we're all racist in a way that we think that there are good things in life and there are bad things, that there are special things and there are mundane things. And we think that we have good parts of ourselves and bad parts of ourselves. But to see who we truly are beyond that, to see that experience completely changes everything. And like I said, it can be just a small insight or it can be a huge life-altering kind of thing. And so I really believe that this enlightenment was a subtle process. It was dropping thoughts. I can't even say how much I knew before I had an enlightenment experience. But I thought it would just be a subtle thing. I didn't understand because as a child, I'd been really passionate kind of person. And so my life and growing up had been me teaching myself to subdue that for survival reasons, because I knew that if I was overly passionate about things, I would end up hurting myself. So I put my nose to the grindstone. I became really good at work, really good at saving money, extremely practical kind of person. And I put any sort of desires or whimsy or anything away. And I went along with mindfulness, and I thought that this was going even further in the direction of securing, of just like, I was going to be this person who was immune to these emotions, and I was going to be this like Superman kind of like immunity. And the awakening was me realizing that all that devilry, all that passion, everything was perfect. That everything was just perfect as it was. And the immunity I wanted came with that too, but it didn't look like the thing I expected it to look like. And there are a lot of interesting side effects, and people have varying, strange side effects of basically falling into source. The clouds part, you see the brilliance of the sun for the first time, and who knows how long, if it's just, there is no time. Thinking back, there's no like exact moment, sort of, and there were synchronicity got incredibly crazy before and after. Talked about some of the visual changes. There was really heightened intuition, and I had the realization that when I was a kid, I had these impulses, and I diagnosed myself as having obsessive compulsive disorder. I never saw anybody or talked to anybody about it. And those impulses came back, and I realized that those impulses were intuition. And so I'd go to the beach and I'd have an impulse to turn over a rock, and I would, and it would be covered in fossils or something interesting. And so it was kind of like shown to me at this time what that really was. And so that thing that I had judged in my mind, that I'd worked really hard as a teenager, as someone maturing into an adult, that I'd worked really hard to get past those impulses because I thought that they were crazy thoughts. That was actually a knowledge beyond me that I had never recognized until I had truly dropped the ego, had a no-self experience, and seen what that was like. I recently heard a story of an out-of-body experience, and this was really interesting. There was a bomb that actually went off. The lady worked in border security or something, and so she left her body and time stopped, and she stood outside and did all these calculations, like incredibly impossible calculations for her to have made normally or had the experience or knowledge to do. And so she figured out like where to move and stuff, and time stopped in that moment, and she moved herself out of the way somehow. And she was fine afterwards, but life was never the same again because she saw the perfection. She saw the calculations that were going on. And I had glimpses like this. And they keep coming somewhat. It's not like it was a one thing, but there was a window that was just incredibly powerful after I had this sort of no self-realization. There was just this window of this incredible bliss state, or you could call it a kundalini awakening. I never understood what chakras were, but I understood this after that. And you see how everything is intelligently designed, and you see how your intelligence is a small part of this, and how you're using it to kind of look back on itself. And I had these there were two, so your mind patterns, when you have that much power going through you, or you have that much, I don't know what to call it, momentum, when your mind comes back in, really bad things can happen to you. Not bad, but so there are two major misinterpretations I made. One was that a sort of a messiah complex. Like, I saw there was a ton of shadow work. That's how I had the no self experience. It was basically like channeled, could not avoid it, shadow work. And it wasn't, parts of it were hard to do, but it wasn't really. I was so disconnected from it. It was just like I was an author writing a story about this character that I loved, named me, Mandy, whatever. And so you can see how afterwards you could have a messiah complex where it's like, I'm the chosen one, because you understand how everything in your life led you to here and what this miraculous moment is and everything. So you can understand how people misinterpret that. And I believe sometimes that goes on to create like gurus and leaders who they had a no self experience and then use it to build up the ego. I definitely saw how that and experienced how that temptation happens. And the other interpretation I had of it was that everyone in the world was already enlightened and they were just waiting for me to catch up. And I really believed that for a while too. And now I see how silly that was and how nuanced that is. And I see that I didn't come here for that bliss experience. I needed that to see and to understand and to clear out a lot of things. But I didn't come here to live in that sort of connection. It was a no self, it was a death to self experience. And in order to function, I need to be more settled and I need to be able to use logic. And I wouldn't want to live that way all the time. And so it took me months to accept that I wouldn't want to live that way all the time. But I'm also open-minded to whatever else, other experiences or glimpses are going to come my way that I attract into my experience of things that I still don't understand and don't know. And at the same time, there's a part of me who sees my patterns, and now it's all about seeing patterns. And so there's these old patterns, and doing the shadow work made me realize how I had tried with mindfulness work to put my past away. So I stopped identifying as a Christian anymore and had to put that away as kind of silliness of something that I was born into. And I had never fully appreciated how deep the passion I had for Jesus Christ was and how far it got me. And the place of religion in our life. And I'd spent years hating Christians, and I had spent years hating myself. And of course, you can apply this to every religion, but I saw that because there was no time, there is nothing but the present moment, but the present moment includes the past and the future and everything. And so shadow work is like a level up of the present moment of letting go of the past. And the best way I can describe it is it's like you threw out a boomerang when you let go. And awakening is like it comes back and hits you in the head, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's what that was about. So letting go and embracing, same thing. You are everything, you are nothing, same thing. Embracing paradox, the beauty of embracing paradox is what this is all about. And when we think we have it figured out, we don't. And the awakening is an experience of what it's like to both have it all figured out and not know anything at all. And that's ultimate freedom, I guess. Ultimate freedom of knowing that everything was perfectly laid out for you. Your life is perfectly laid out. And we all get different glimpses and we all have different experiences. And that's why religion is so weird. And we have so many symbols for things, and people kind of laugh. It's sort of and I'm not saying anything bad about atheists, because that's another paradoxical side of the truth, right? But it's kind of something they would say is to not, or they would believe is to not appreciate symbols. And symbols are just pointers. And so gods and deities and stories, Bible stories and everything are pointers, they're symbols. And there's this underlying truth or intelligence that they're trying to show to us, and then your experience is going to be 100% completely new, but it may use some of those symbols that you resonated with in the past to try to show you things too. And I am going to do a bunch of research on shadow work, and because it was never anything I was really interested in doing, I thought letting go of the past was the present moment, that there's nothing but the present moment, and that was a really important step in my journey. I never expected the present moment to include the past and the future. And so now another one of my goals is to dream and plan for the future, instead of just kind of let life happen in an unsatisfying way. And it's funny how dreaming for the future, dreaming for the things you want, and identifying the things that you want kind of kill the ego too. It turned out I was trying to kill something I had no idea about what it really was. So I think this video probably, if you've gotten this far, probably succeeded in my promise to both clarify and muddy the waters. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I hope you don't think I'm crazy. That's another one of my goals, is to get okay with being crazy. And because I had spent so many years trying to have my life together and look like someone who knew everything, and this is what I want. I wanted to play this game of life, which is craziness itself, and to see through it, and to see that we're playing a game. And not everybody has that desire. Not everybody wants to see it. Some people just came to enjoy and play the game. And maybe there's another time around for them, or maybe we all fuse into one together. Or maybe both. Who knows? I'm not sure how far duality or non-duality goes. But the more I tried to pin down reality, the more I tried to pin down my survival, safety, the more I tried to pin down who I was and what was right or wrong, the less happy I became. And so this is the true freedom that I really wanted. And if this is your choice and your path, then best wishes to you. I love you guys. Bye.